Allow your eyes to close. And just take a moment and allow yourself to draw inward. There is so much going on in the world around us. So much movement. So much change. Just take a moment and allow yourself to unhook your awareness from all of that is constantly changing in the world around you. Literally feel yourself unhooking that attention, that focus from all of the sights, the sounds, the sensations, the smells, and draw that attention very deliberately from the outer world to the inner world. And then notice that the attention, when it comes in, it tends to then get hooked into your constantly changing thoughts. The mind now that's going between the past and the future. Desires, anxieties, what's for dinner, all of the different places the mind goes. And just notice that, and then very deliberately unhook that awareness again from the constant changing waves of the mind and draw it in deeper. Allow the breath to be like a magnet for the awareness. Just drawing it in, drawing it in. We're not working with the breath or changing the breath, but just allowing that breath to be a magnet for the awareness. And just allow that awareness to merge with the flow of the breath as it flows in and flows out. If you notice yourself getting distracted, just bring the awareness back to the breath. Don't yell at yourself or tell a story. Just bring the awareness back over and over again. to the rise and fall of the breath. You can add a very simple and very beautiful mantra to this practice if you like. If you notice that your mind still wanders, just give it one more sacred point of attention. And the mantra is so hum. So hum. It means I am that. I am one with all of existence. I am one with the Creator, one with the creation, one with the Supreme Reality. There's no place the world ends and I begin. So hum. Just on the inhalations, as the breath is coming in and rising, allow yourself very gently and silently to yourself, to just chant. So on the inhalations. And as the breath falls, as you exhale, just allow yourself gently and silently to chant to the self. Hum. So on the inhalations, hum on the exhalations, as the awareness pulls deeper and deeper into the self. Slowly and gently, bring the palms of your hands together at chest level in Namaste. And gently rub the palms of your hands against each other. And press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly lower the hands. and open the eyes. Welcome to Satsang. A quick logistic, pragmatic point. I'll make it again at the end, but I will not be here tomorrow. I have to go to Delhi for one day. I'll be back on the 8th, so we won't have satsang tomorrow, but we will have satsang again on the 8th, which will actually be our last satsang for a week, because from the 9th we have our International Yoga Festival. So satsang today, then satsang again on the 8th, but then we'll gather again after the Yoga Festival. Beginning, as we usually do, with a question that comes from our global family joining us from all over the world through this gift of technology. And then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. There's a microphone right here in the center, so feel free to just come to the mic, share your name, share where you're from, and share your question. I went through a divorce this year from a malignant narcissist. I'm actively working on forgiving him. I'm enjoying my solitude, but I feel guilty for not having stood up for myself for 22 years. What to do? So first of all, congratulations on freeing yourself, finally. Second thing is, life does not have a rewind button. And one of the greatest mistakes that we make is wasting precious time, precious energy on that over which we have absolutely zero impact whatsoever. Our past is one of those things. It's like a garbage disposal for your time and energy. It sucks it all in, gives you nothing back. Because we can't rewind history. However, we can learn lessons. And this is the important distinction between guilt and regret. Guilt is toxic. Guilt says you are stupid, you are lazy, you are worthless or useless, or you are this or you are that. Guilt is a pervasive statement. This is who you are. All guilt does is harm our present because of a mistake we made in the past. Guilt is saying, okay, well, I blew it once. Therefore, I'm going to make sure that I blow every other minute of the rest of my life. It makes no sense. Just like we talk about forgiveness all the time in here. And I always say not forgiving, holding a grudge, is like saying, okay, you hurt me once, or maybe 10 times. I am now willingly, consciously going to hurt myself on your behalf for every moment of the rest of my life by holding a grudge against what you did. It's nonsensical. It's natural. We all do it. Nothing to feel badly about with the instinct. But this is where, when we speak about gyan, wisdom, vidya, knowledge, this is where spiritual wisdom is so important. Because if not, we move through our lives full of grudges, full of guilt, ruining our present because of the past. But regret, on the other hand, regret can be actually really useful. Regret says, I kind of blew it. That was not a wise decision. Not, I am stupid, lazy, worthless. Not a comment on who I am, but simply a comment on a choice that I made. Not a skillful decision. How can I make better decisions in the future? So in this case, what I would say is, let go of the guilt. Recognize there was a lesson for you in that experience. But it would also be really helpful to understand why you didn't leave. What was it? Not to feel badly about. Not to bash yourself about. I would imagine, without knowing her, I would imagine that there was optimism. He'll change. And optimism is beautiful. Optimists, by scientific research, are happier people, healthier people than pessimists. They're correct a lot less of the time than pessimists are, but we are a lot happier and healthier. So for me, I would rather be happy and healthy than right. So maybe you were an optimist. Maybe you thought he would change. Beautiful. To think the best of someone is wonderful. Maybe there were kids. And maybe you thought that abandoning him, throwing the kids into a messy divorce, that it would hurt them, and so you made a sacrifice for the kids. Beautiful. There may be 100 other reasons. But it's helpful to look and understand those. Number one, so that we can have compassion for ourselves. But number two, so that we can learn from it. Oh, maybe my optimism is a little too much on the far-fetched side of reality. Maybe I want to be like in the, just over here from the line, but not necessarily all the way over there. It reminds me, one of our beautiful Parmarth family members, who I've known since she was very young. She grew up basically in Pujya Swamiji's lap, originally from Africa, now lives in the US, is a doctor. But when she was in medical school, I'll never forget, she moved from Zambia in Africa to Oklahoma in the US, and then moved to New York to go to medical school. And in New York, she was living in an awful part of town and traveling by subway and walking and whatnot. It was because her school was in an awful part of town. And staying in, chemistry labs and bio labs until late in the night. And I remember talking to her. Oh, where's the school? Where are you living? And, what's your life look like? And she would talk about basically coming home at, midnight, 1 a.m, and on the subway, on the bus, walking back to the apartment. And I said, well, God, you got to be really careful, sweetheart. Like, this is New York City. It's a dangerous place. And she said, yeah. She said, there's a lot of, not quite so sattvic elements on the street. But she's always been very deeply devoted and pious. And she said, but I just see Krishna in all of them. And I remember saying to her, sweetheart, that is so beautiful. And you need to realize that they are not seeing Radha in you. And the fact that you're seeing Krishna in them is so great. But also, do me a favor, cross the street. Like, get out of the way. And lessons around maybe I was too optimistic, or maybe I, believed someone who kept saying, I'll change, I'll change, I'll change. Or maybe maybe we went into this relationship without a full sense of the wholeness, the fullness, the perfection, that purnyata, that utter fullness, divine fullness of ourselves. And maybe the husband said, well, I'm only like this because of you. Right? How many of us have been told by a parent, by a spouse, by a boss, that the reason they are abusive to us, physically, emotionally, psychologically, is because we've somehow pushed them to it. We are somehow damaged in such a way, deficient in such a way, that the only thing they can do to us is what they're doing, and that it's not their fault, it's our fault. And maybe you believed him. Whatever the reasons are, look at them and understand them from a perspective of compassion. But also look at them and understand them so that you can learn the lessons and don't get yourself into another such type of situation in the future. What was it I believed about myself, about him, about my responsibilities, about my worthiness, that led me to spend 22 years in an emotionally abusive situation? Enjoy the solitude now, but the antidote to bad relationships is not to crawl into a cave for the rest of our lives. It's beautiful to learn how much we love our own company, how beautiful solitude can be. And we may not ever get married again, or we may not ever have a romantic relationship again, no problem. But we do have to go back into relationship with the world, even if not on a marriage or romance level. And we have to be able to go back into relationship with an open heart, with an ability to trust. Because if someone's unskillfulness, someone's ego, someone's pathology ends up making us make a decision for the rest of our lives to close ourselves down, then we have taken on their pathology. We've taken on their unskillfulness and are voluntarily ruining the rest of our lives over it. So again, I would never say get married again. I would never even say you have to be in another romantic relationship. But you do have to trust the world again. And you have to trust your own instincts again. And you have to be able to go back into this world with an open heart, trusting yourself and trusting others. And again, keeping your common sense in hand, veering a little bit on the side of optimism, but not necessarily perhaps so far. But going back into the world, because we are beings for whom relationship is our yoga. And to withdraw and contract because we made a mistake is the equivalent of getting food poisoning and deciding we're never going to eat again. Right? You got to eat again. Okay, that food was bad. You got sick. It was awful. Fast for a few days. Have juices. Have liquids. But eventually, if you don't eat again, you're going to die. You're going to harm yourself worse than the food poisoning did. So in the same way, we have to trust again. Beautiful. Yes, other questions? Anyone here? Yes, of course, please. भैया माइक थोड़ा सा बीच में ले आइएगा. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Jay, and I'm from Leicester in the UK.
Wonderful.
With reverence and gratitude, I offer my loving and humble namaskar and pranams to you, Sadhviji. My question is, currently, there is so much unrest in the world, with countries at war, resulting in loss of so many lives. There is so much hatred and animosity, with countries trying to prove their superiority over others. My question to you, Sadhviji, is what is the root cause of all these conflicts around the world, and what can we do as devotees leading a spiritual life other than offer our humble prayers for conflicts to end?
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Root cause of all of the wars, of all of the violence, of all of the harm, of all of the climate change, of all of the destruction. I mean, we see so many wars happening today. But the damage and the harm is not only wars of one country against another, but it's damage and harm of us against Mother Earth, us against future generations. And the root cause is ignorance. According to our Dharma, our Sanatan Dharma, our Sanskriti, we believe that the very core of who we are is divine, that we are one with divine, and therefore one with all. That same divinity, that same consciousness permeates and pervades all. From a leaf, to a drop of water, to a tree, to every species upon this planet. Different species' abilities to understand, recognize, interact with, reflect that consciousness varies based on our brains and nervous systems, etc. But the consciousness, the divinity is there, regardless of our ability to interact with it. But what happens is, due to Maya, this energy of illusion, we forget. We forget that we are divine. We forget that we are whole. We forget that we are complete. We forget we're one. And we identify with this body. Its size, its shape, its color, its race, its religion, its history. And based on all of that, we suffer. We only bring suffering to others when we are suffering ourselves. Core rule of human psychology. We only bring suffering to others when we are suffering in ourselves. If we are full of love and peace, that is what we are sharing with the world. And so first we suffer. We suffer feeling not enough. The other guy's got more than I do. She's more beautiful than I do. It's not fair. In that sense of lack, of competition, of jealousy, of greed, we want to get more and more. And that ignorance also separates us from others. It creates me and other. This is what I have, that's what you have more. So I hate you, you are the other, I'm in competition. And therefore, I want to steal it from you, even if it means I have to harm you. And it may be your home, it may be your car, it may be your oil resources, it may be your power, it may be your land, it may be your popularity, political popularity, social popularity, whatever it may be. That ignorance makes us forget. And in that ignorance, and in that suffering, we need to grab and hoard in order to feel full. And we see ourselves as objects that are not full enough, so I've got to earn more, get more, steal more, grab more. Your gain is my loss, so I better make sure you don't gain anything. And so I need to gobble it all up and hoard. And I see myself and you as objects. We objectify ourselves and we objectify others. And if someone is other and an object, well, then of course I can harm them. This is, if you look at history and you go back to everything ranging from the American enslavement of our African American black sisters and brothers as slaves, to the Holocaust, to any genocide, it only happens when we objectify the other. Oh, they don't feel like we feel. They're animals. They're not like us. We do it to nature. We do it to animals. It's what enables us to keep eating non-veg and have animal agriculture and harm not only the animals themselves, but our planet. Because the meat industry is the single greatest contributor to global warming, one of the greatest contributors to global hunger, to the destruction of our global water resources. But hey, if people starving, dying of starvation in Africa are other, well, then I can eat all the hamburgers I want because, hey, they're not me. So when we look at wars, we look at violence, whether it's a man raping a woman, whether it's a country committing genocide against another country, or anything in between. It only can happen when I see the other as an object that is different than I am, and as an object who is standing in between me and what I want. I am suffering. They are the obstacle, in my mind, to the end of my suffering. I don't feel like I'm enough. Well, if I just had more land, more power, more money, then I would feel like enough, and you are the one standing in the way, so I need to do away with you. So that's the cause. We can absolutely refuse to let our minds, our hearts be co-opted by other people's harmful, violent, greedy, illusory solutions in their mind to their own personal suffering. But we get co-opted. Imagine I'm head of a country. And I don't feel like my country's big enough, or we have enough resources, or we have enough money, and I want more. Now, if I try to get people to go and sacrifice their lives so I can have more money and power, nobody's going to do it. Life is precious. But if I say to them, those people, they are the reason that you are suffering. They're the reason you're poor. They're the reason you don't have a job. They're the reason for this, that God is against them. They are against God. Well, then I start to be able to rally the troops. They co-opt our minds, our hearts, and then our lives in the service of nothing other than their own personal agendas. And so we need to first and foremost ensure that our minds and our hearts are aligned, anchored, grounded. And that's what our spiritual practice is about. That is why now our meditation has become not only our spiritual requirement for our awakening and realization, but it's actually become our social responsibility. We need to meditate. We need to meditate so that we know the truth, so that we don't get co-opted into being objectified and objectifying others. Yeah, sure, cut down the forest, put in a factory and call it development. Forget our indigenous sisters and brothers, forget the trees, forget all of the species that rely on the trees, forget those who need to breathe oxygen. Let's have a factory. Because we have lost our ability to think for ourselves. So we have to do our spiritual practice. The other thing is what I was speaking about in Aarti. We have to reclaim our ability to pay attention. The fact that we can only focus for 47 seconds makes us part of the problem. Because then we cannot actually properly think. And then we are so easily influenced by a soundbite. We need to be able to think, to read an entire book, or listen to an entire conversation on an important topic that impacts our lives, our planet. We have to take back our attention. But then number 3, we have to act. We have to act. There may have been a time in history in which simply meditating and praying was enough. We're no longer there. We need to do our meditation and prayers so that we can be efficient, effective, peaceful, grounded, anchored channels, instruments for peace in the world. Because if I am full of rage and outrage, I am useless to the world. I may write a big missive on Facebook and feel like it was a big catharsis, but I haven't actually done anything. In order to really be of service, I have to be free of that rage and outrage, which is what I need my spiritual practice for, to help me transmute that into love. Into love. For those who are being oppressed, for those who are being harmed. It's not wishy-washy. It's not that we're no longer angry. It's just that we don't act from anger anymore. I was just back in the US in Jan and Feb, where everyone is very rightfully furious at ICE, who are coming in and pulling our immigrant sisters and brothers out of dorm rooms, out of their homes, separating them from their children and families, people who are contributing positive members of the American population, sending them into deportation centers. I mean, it's awful. And people are angry. The problem is our anger doesn't solve the problem. In order to be efficient and effective, we have to act from love. And so it's not, let me love the ICE agents. Eventually, spiritually, yes, that's the highest goal. But we don't have to wait for that. We simply have to transmute it to, I love our immigrant sisters and brothers. And the action I'm going to do is action for them rather than action against these guys. I love children of every race, of every religion, of every nationality, of every ethnicity. What can we do to protect those children? And we have to act. Each of us has a different sphere of impact, of influence, of resources, of abilities. But every one of us has to use what we have to serve. And we may not be able to make an impact on what's going on in the Middle East. Not all of us have that impact or that ability of influence. But you know what? There's a lot of starving people on the streets of where most of us live. And so if you can't personally get food in there, well, at least feed the people who are starving on your street. If you can't do something to guarantee the safety of kids in war zones? Can you do something for the kids on the streets of London, of LA, of New York, of Tokyo, of Delhi, wherever it may be? We have to act. Karma yoga is not a suggestion. In all of the lines of the Bhagavad Gita that Bhagwan Krishna spoke about karma yoga, nowhere did he say, if you feel like it, if you think it's a good idea. These are imperatives, spiritual imperatives to act, to serve. So, first we anchor and ground ourselves. We focus on that which we love rather than that which we are angry at. The anger is a catalyst for energy, but our destination and direction must be guided by love. And then we rise and we serve in whatever capacity we have to bring as much healing as we can. And it may be being teachers in schools. It may be by being influencers online. It may be through being, community organizers. It could be through being doctors and nurses going and serving. I mean, there's thousands of ways for us to act. But we have to act. Beautiful.
Thank you, Sadhviji.
Of course.
Wonderful response.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. So we have time for one more question if there's any other questions. Yes. Come.
Hi, I'm Jessica from Canada.
Wonderful. Welcome.
And I was wondering, in your spiritual journey, what made you pass to the bridge of your own spiritual work to being ready to help and accomplish your mission?
Great. Our spiritual journey in and of itself makes us ready to help others. When we meditate, for example, when you begin a meditation practice, one of the very first things that happens for almost everyone is that sense of where I end and the world begins, that line, it dissolves. And it may be just a line between where your leg ends and the cushion begins, or where your face ends and the fan that's blowing air begins. And suddenly it's not so separate, but you start to feel kind of one. There's a very natural sense of an expanded experience of self, even in the very beginning stages of meditation. And as we rise from that meditation then, and as we look around, you'll notice automatically that your way of seeing the world shifts. And you stop feeling so separate. You'll also notice that you stop being so reactive, and you stop seeing the world, as we were talking earlier, as an object, but you start being able to see with compassion, with love. And then that love just flows. So it's not one moment where you say, oh, now I'm ready to help others. As you grow and deepen, your true self emerges. Our true nature is to help others. If you look at kids who have not been traumatized, who have not been unduly indoctrinated into separation, they don't have what adults have. They don't have borders and boundaries on the basis of color or gender or language or race or religion or even species. Look at how kids are with bugs, with lizards, with dogs. Like parents are always like, don't touch that. But the kids, it's like, oh, it's a ladybug. It's a dog, it's a cat. Their nature, before it gets traumatized, before it gets indoctrinated, is automatically to share. Kids are always the ones who want to feed the ducks. Oh, give me your sandwich so I can feed the ducks. Give me money to buy bread so I can feed the ducks. Right? If you ever go in any city to the big parks where there's lakes or rivers and there's ducks, you'll see mostly the only adults who are feeding the ducks are adults with kids. They've brought the kids are making them feed the ducks. Because the kids see the ducks as, yeah, we should feed them. It's natural. But we contract. Our egos get a hold of us. We experience trauma. We experience betrayal. We get distracted. And we forget. All of your spiritual practice just makes you remember. Your heart opens. Your heart softens. And suddenly you find yourself automatically feeding the ducks. Automatically giving your sandwich to a homeless person on the street. Automatically calling up someone who you know is alone. It happens very naturally. Automatically looking for a career in which you can be helpful. That becomes, what can I do with my skills and abilities? And all right, I got to make money to pay the rent, but I want to do something that helps. So it'll happen very naturally. Don't worry about that. You focus on the spiritual practice. Keep it deep, keep it real. Allow yourself to peel back the layers of falsehood that tell you you're separate. And automatically that experience of oneness will emerge. And then you'll know how to help. And you'll help in your own beautiful, unique, special way. Beautiful. Yeah. Have a beautiful, wonderful rest of your evenings, everyone. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining online from around the world. And again, I will not be here tomorrow for satsang, but I will be back on the 8th, day after tomorrow. So be sure to come on the 8th, because we will then not be having satsang from the 9th onward for a week. So the 8th will be our last satsang for a while. So I will see you all again day after tomorrow. Have a beautiful 2 days. And so much love to you all.